Hi, I'm Madeleine Winter, and I'm a hand-in-hand instructor based in Sydney in Australia and working with parents via the web across the world. I'm really pleased to be with you here today. It's great that you've got here, and we're really looking forward to giving you some tips and tools to have your family life go smoothly. Today, I want to talk to you about dropping your child at preschool or school. And in the Northern Hemisphere, many of you will have started the new school year. And I'm sure many of you will have struggled to leave your wailing child at school or preschool in the morning. It can be a really intense and stressful time for both parents and children. And it's very tempting to hang around at school to try and ease our transition into the new school environment. But the child carers will often tell you to really effectively drop and run. They might recommend that you have a short ritual, but you'll get the message that they really don't want you to hang around. And I used to think this was just meanness. And it would be great if it was understood generally that a big piece of the work that needs to happen at the beginning of the school year is that parents and children really need help with the feelings that come up when they have to separate. But schools really aren't a place where it's easy for a child to have a good, hearty cry about the fact that you have to leave, or about how frightened they are to be entering into a new and unfamiliar environment. The ratios of adults to children really don't lend themselves to having the adults having the time or the space to listen to a child's upsets. And I'm sure also teachers in that context, teachers are worried that one upset is just going to end up with a room full of wailing children. I think it's also not really all that well understood that the tears are the healing process. And with all the goodwill in the world and best intentions, I think people think that if you stop the crying, you stop the feeling. And, you know, out of kindness, child carers and people who work in school environments often are feeling like what they need to do, if they can just cheer you up and stop the crying, that somehow the child's feelings about separation are, you know, sort of over. So it's often assumed that a child who can part from his parent without a big upset isn't actually harboring feelings about separation. And sort of in that context, and as a result, any child who shows they're upset in a big way is really likely to be judged somewhat harshly as not yet really being sort of school ready. So childcare workers will generally encourage you to leave your child even if they're very upset. And you may have had the experience of kind of ringing half an hour later to hear that your child's perfectly happy. What's going on when this happens? It's like you've left them wailing their heart out and now they're fine. My perspective on this changed when I began to work at a preschool. And prior to that, I had this information and I had done my very best to ensure that my daughter could have the big cries that she needed to have at various points when separation was what needed to happen. But when I was working at a preschool, what I noticed was happening is that for the reasons that I think I've already outlined, that, you know, people are worried that you're going to end up with a whole room of crying children. People are concerned and sort of have the kind of intuitive sense that if you stop the crying, you'll stop the feelings. I came to the view that a childcare centre is really not the place for it to be easy for my child to have the big upset about separation. So what I noticed happened is that when parents hung around, hoping perhaps that they could top up their child's connection cup and ease the transition from childcare into childcare for the day, what happened was that the child's attention would be on their parents' departure. And all the feelings about that would be close to the surface, but there really wasn't space for them to release those feelings in a good cry. And personally, this is my definition of torture, when the feelings are right up, but there actually isn't an opportunity to release them. It's an excruciating feeling. So the child is preoccupied with the fact that their parent's going to leave, and it means they can't pull their attention off to notice what other good things might be going on at preschool. They couldn't engage with interesting activities or connect and interact with their friends. And they would just be anxious about the fact that their parent was going to leave. At the point of leaving, they might be upset for a little while, but once their parent is gone, many children are able to turn their attention to what is going on at preschool and engage with their friends and do interesting things. And I think what's happening here is not that your child no longer has feelings of separation, but that it's no longer safe for them to feel those feelings. While you were still there, I think they still had the hope that they might be able to feel those feelings. But really, a big cry isn't on the agenda in that environment. So once you leave, a child can pack away those feelings into their emotional backpack and make space for other things for the rest of the day. And as parents, I think it's really important that we focus on what we can really control. We can look high and low for the perfect childcare centre, somewhere that will understand that our child needs to release emotions and how important that is to their good functioning. And, you know, gradually more and more preschools and schools have this information. There are a number of preschool directors and workers who've done our instructor training. And you'll probably find that the places they work in and the places they run are, you know, more sympathetic, more gentle around the release of feelings. But most educational institutions are really not set up for handling the release of big feelings. But we parents are set up to do that. So we need to make sure that we have kind of packed our children's emotional backpack with connection in the morning. And one of the best ways to do that is with special time. And with that, a child can carry the sense of connection, their sense of connection with us through the day, knowing that we'll be back together again in the evening. And when we reconnect in the evening, it's again good to do some special time to reassure a child of our connection with them after the period of absence. And in addition, we need to be ready to help them unpack their backpack of the waste that they've accumulated over the day. They won't have been able to release all of the feelings that have come up in their school day, feelings about new learning experiences, feelings about difficult social interactions, possibly even feelings about the teachers and, you know, all sorts of other things to do with being at preschool. But bolstered by special time, those feelings will be closer to the surface. And I think it's important that you understand that in these times of transition, your child you might find that your child is getting upset about all sorts of odd things. And it's when you have time, it's worth staying to listen to those feelings when they bubble up, because they're draining the bucket of feelings that makes being away from you hard on your child. They're finding pretexts to hang those feelings on. So it's often a really rocky time when children, you know, start school, or it's often connected with any big transition, you know, the arrival of a a new sibling, moving house, the working arrangements or routine in your household changing. You know, sometimes it's hard to notice it for what it is, but you may notice that your child gets more upset than usual about small things that just seem silly. And what's happening is that they're finding a place where they can safely bring up feelings, and those feelings will be about all of the big things that are happening in their life, but they won't necessarily be able to articulate it that way. So my advice is to drop and run in the morning when you're leaving your child at preschool. Perhaps do some special time earlier, or sort of take the opportunity to start early in the morning and do a slow, long goodbye in the car park. But once you're at preschool, you want to do a hug, a goodbye, and leave. And later, you can listen to your child. I hope you found that useful. I will put some links in the comments section, and if you've got any questions, I would be really happy to hear from you. And you can catch me at www.madelinewinter.com or find my Facebook page, Hand in Hand with Madeleine. I hope you're really getting good value out of all of these Facebook Lives. We're really enjoying doing them. And at the end of September, this wonderful resource will move itself over to the Parent Club, where you can get this kind of information and much more detailed support for your parenting challenges. So I highly recommend trying that out when it opens up again at the end of September. But great to be with you. I'm looking forward to being with you again next week at this time. Okay, bye.